So the concept of a bird being generally clean because of its anatomic compatibility, in general, species of birds can't interbreed because they are anatomically a little bit different species to species. And again, we've got a darga, we've got something that says there might be a stepwise component to what we're talking about here. So there's just that little step in between each different species of bird so that they are not compatible with each other, and therefore just by the way that they're designed, they can be tahor, they can be true to the form that they were created in, and therefore have that element of purity about them. And again, it's not necessarily for a lack of trying, it's just for that's the way that they are. So again, that's how Me'of, from a bird, gets a darga, and that's how it fits the concept of them being clean. Tavir, the note under Hashamayim is that Mercha on the outside with a dot on the inside, so we've got something that's protected and sheltered with a little bit of a pause after it, so it's separating itself out slightly from what's going to go beyond.
It's interesting.
The main focus, though, is on the sheltering aspect. Yeah.
How it, from a bird of the skies, that you would think, well, bird's a bird, but there are
Chickens.
Chickens, turkeys, ostriches.
Mm-hmm.
So it's being very specific.
Which is the next comment.
And his comment is going to actually focus on that. While operating at the height of the skies, the bird was also immune to the venturous influences of man and retained its own natural original characteristics, as stressed by the shape of the related reading mark. The reading mark tells you that this is something that sheltered the animal because it didn't live on the ground with man, didn't necessarily learn all the bad things that man were trying to do, which the animals obviously did learn. And I think by inference here we're saying they learned from the behavior of men. And the birds, because they had that separation of the skies, were able to live that little bit of a sheltered life and maintain more purity to themselves as well, because not only were they anatomically different, but they didn't have as much of a bad influence as the animals had.
Okay, so what about those fowl that aren't in the skies, like chickens and turkeys and ostriches? So they're considered different? We're putting them in a different category?
We don't make any comment about them. They still are me'of. They still have the characteristics of being a bird, and therefore they have that anatomical protection as well. A lot of some of the flightless species are kosher and some of them are not kosher. So I don't see the ability or lack of ability to flight as necessarily influencing behavior later on.
That's where I was trying to think.
Yeah. I'm just trying to consider if you truly consider a chicken a flightless bird. It does have wings. It's just too heavy to fly. And certainly, what we grow commercially now is not capable of flying. But I would, chickens do fly for a couple of feet and then they come back down again. So I would think that a wilder version might still be able to fly until it got to buffalo, and then I would not have buffalo wings. In any case, Shiv'ah. So we're gonna repeat that same combination. 7, 7. The first with a mercha, the second with a tipcha. So the first is going to lead into the concept of the second, and the second is going to include the concept of the first, and it's going to be slightly connected to what comes before it and what comes after it. So word number 4, which is 7. Thus, 7 birds of a kind shall be admitted to the box for preservation, as shown by the directional shape of the reading mark. So you're going to take in the first 7, and Shiva, as a balance, an equal number of the same species but of the opposite sexual denomination shall be accepted to constitute 7 pairs as a basic unit of a species, as suggested by the closing shape of the directional reading mark. So this is telling us that it's slightly connected to what's from before, so it's Me'of HaShamayim, it's from these birds that have this pure influence, and we're going to take 7, and we're going to complement that 7 with something that completes the first 7. And Zachar, with a munach, number 6, a male. I'm sorry. So we've got a couple of notes before we get to that. And B, the expression clean tahor was not specified. So in the sentence before, Mikol habehema hatorah, from the pure animals tikach lecha shiva shiva, you're going to take 7 7. Here it says gameof shamayim, and it doesn't mention tahor or not. So we're noticing that we're getting to Zachar and Nekeva without having mentioned tahor or not. Although that concept he's inferred from the dargah under the word off. And second note, since the amount of 7 birds corresponds to the number of 7 clean animals, Rashi's in. Okay, so let's read the Rashi. Shiva Shiva. Gameof HaShamayim, Batiharim HaKatuv Medaber, Ulamad Satum Min HaMeforash. So we're talking about those pure birds, and the thing that we're learning is hidden from what we're saying out loud. So before we said the word tahor out loud, and now we're saying just 7 7, and we're implying from that, well, you're taking 7 pure birds. If you actually have an impure bird, you shouldn't be taking 7, you should be taking 2. Okay, so since the amount, right, so the 7 we've already used before, only in the instance of animals that were pure. So since the amount of 7 birds corresponds with the number 7 of the clean animals, Rashi is inclined to think that this also pertains to clean birds. So that's what Rashi said out loud. But if this was correct, the text would have used an expression me ha'of, from the bird, instead of me off. So it's not specifying the definite article, it's using the indefinite. Maybe we'll pause. We're good? Okay. Maybe we won't. Let's start again. Are we on?
You're on.
Okay. So me off is from a bird, rather than me ha'of, from the bird, the definite article. So he's arguing with what Rashi says. In my opinion, the admissions of 7 pairs of the same kinds of birds was a measure to counteract the massive destruction of the eggs, which are eaten up as food by various species. Note the accentuation for surviving seed in contrast to the others. L'chayot zera, which is the second part of the pasuk, that's in order to make the species to live. So he's saying the number 7 here does not imply pureness, although birds, as he said, from Me'of, have some element of pureness, and that's why they get the pure number to be saved. But the reason they're being saved is not so much that they're pure, it's that they're going to be preyed upon and they're going to be used up more, and if you're going to keep the species alive, then you need more, rather than talking about their purity per se. So he's arguing with Rashi. I don't think he doesn't necessarily give a basis of that based on the notes. He's arguing on the basis of me off versus me ha'of. So the indefinite versus the definite article.
But it's a rational argument, given that this we say here Lachayot Zera, which we haven't said elsewhere. And I think that should make a differentiation.
Question about just my not understanding the language itself. 6, Zachar, there's a male, yet on the paragraph, the line before, 7, a male, Ish. What's and same with the translation for female. Why the different words? What's the difference in its meaning or interpretation?
So the word Zachar actually means male, of male gender. Ish means a man of male gender. So when we're talking about animals which are the closest to man and perhaps have more of an ability to mimic some features of man, they are called Ish v'Ishto.
So you're saying all animals, like all the animals animals in general fall into that category?
So well, that's what the sentence was about. The sentence was about behema. So
and the parent
we have things in this world that mimic others in order for us to learn about ourselves, and certainly animals have a more close behavior pattern to what people would have, and that's being told to us by the use of the words ish v'ishto instead of zachar and nekeva. Number 6, according to the general rule, this is a munach, so this is going to separate itself out from what's come before and move forward into what's going to come after it. According to the general rule, each unit shall have consisted of a male of certain species, as expressed by the shape of the reading mark. So it's separating itself out from the concept of the 7 pairs. It's just saying there's going to be a male, and it's going to lead into unekeva. It's going to lead into the etnachta, the stabilizing influence, perhaps with a little bit of something looking upwards from it. For idiomorphic reproduction, a male and a female complemented the pair to preserve the integrity of the species, as confirmed by the stabilizing shape of the reading mark. So again, the stabilizing influence of the female is emphasized here. I'm struggling a little bit as to why he's introducing the concept of reproduction here. And I'm wondering if he's trying to make a comment on stability of couples within species, but some birds are known to be very loyal to their mates as well. So I'm not quite sure. Versus just a male with any female. I'm not sure why he's going to that particular aspect here. I will contemplate it over the week, and hopefully we will have something of an answer. Number 8, lechayot, for surviving. And the translation is again a little bit askew. So chai is alive, lechayot is to make alive, and he's got for surviving, which again is the context here, but he's used that rather than a more pure translation which he was using before. This is a mercha. It's going to lead forward into what's going to come after. It's going to gently include what might have come before it, but be more emphatic about what's going to come after it. The birds were saved at the ark for surviving of various scattered eggs by hatching. Otherwise, they would be exposed for destruction as food, as specified by the directional shape of the reading mark. So, the chayot, what's going to lead to their survival is going to be what we're going to be told right after this word, zera, seed. The fact that there are lots of eggs. Because birds' eggs are laid specifically, number 9, zera, with a tipcha. So this is going to include this is going to focus back on the previous word, and will gently lead into what comes after it, but its main focus is on what's come before. So chayot, for surviving, seed. Thus the idea was to save seed of species that was left unattended, e.g. chickens that hatch ducklings, keep following the young with care, and cry with pain when seeing the offspring jump in the water, committing suicide, as illustrated by the closing shape or the directional shape of the reading.
Ducks that hatch ducklings or chickens that chicks. Not sure if you meant chickens were having ducklings.
I think we're talking about ducks. So he's specifically talking about the concept of loyalty to one's own kind, and maternal instinct, if you will. So the concept of looking after the young as being an exemplary feature or feature at least of birds. And specifically with his emphasis on eggs sitting on the nest, hatching, which is sort of more unique to them, where you see the seed sitting out there out loud. That becomes the focus of this category of beasts. That becomes the focus of birds. Is when you think of a bird, you usually think of the concept of egg. It came first.
Let's ask a question. Sorry, maybe the grammar different. What says lechayot and lehachayot? I think lechayot and shkochai. Right, that phrase. I'm just wondering if you have any insight into that, or am I just reading it wrong?
No. So one is one is more passive than the other. So this is a much more active form of than lahachayot. Lahachayot still has some reflexive. The thing is doing it by itself. Lechayot is God is doing this all by himself, and it really is a complete act of God keeping alive, versus lahachayot is somewhat reflexive, somewhat part of it is coming from within the animal itself. So that might be why we've got the word surviving versus to keep alive or to right, because it's not lahachayot. It's not to keep them alive. It's to allow them. It's to completely ensure their life. Zera, seed, with a tipcha, and then we come to al penei with a mercha, number 10, over face. This is a mercha, so it's going to lead forward to what is going to go after it. It's not going to completely separate itself out from what's come before, but its main focus is what's coming after. However, the flying bird, which could be in easy reach of all earth, could be essential in protecting the life of the species. So the fact that the bird stays close to the ground, over the face of the ground, means that they're available for other animals to hunt and to have access to as well. So because it is al panei, because it's sorry, I read the wrong comment. Number 10. Because birds' eggs are laid superficially over the face of the ground, they are defenseless, as conveyed by the directional shape of the reading mark. So they're on the face, with leading forward into what's going to come after it. The zera, and again we're gently leading back to what's come before. So the seed, the eggs of the birds,
So they're not really
are sitting al panei. They're sitting on the face of the ground. They're sitting somewhere where, or they're sitting, not very high up in a tree, or they're sitting somewhere that can be. Well, there are other animals that climb on the trees.
Yeah.
So they're there where they are exposed, versus animals which have the eggs inside of them where they're not exposed.
Yeah.
So he is building on the concept that there were 7 of these. Why? There are 7 of these, so that is preserved in the ark, not a pair, not 2. There's 7 because the eggs are there and things are going to eat eggs. So you need, because of that defining feature of what a bird is, with the eggs sitting out there exposed, you need lots of them, which doesn't necessarily tell us what we've got about amphibians and reptiles, but we'll see if we lead into that. I don't think we lead into that anywhere else, but in any case, we see the concept with the birds that
the fish that lay thousands of eggs.
But again, we sort of have inferred that fish didn't participate in this intermingling, and
that's
therefore
my point. Yet they're the ones that have greater numbers of eggs for survival, but they weren't in danger.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose, that's a fair comment. Within nature, they have greater eggs because more of them will die, fewer of them will survive to adulthood, to reproduce. So that's just the nature of the animal itself. I think the argument, please focus on wrong, I think the argument here is why 7 versus 2, because greater probability of more being destroyed. So to be able to ensure reproduction and growth, we used a greater number, and 7 seems to be the number.
Number 11, kol haaretz, of all the earth. However, the flying bird, which could be in easy reach of all the earth, could be essential in protecting the life of the species. So this is sof pasuk, so this is something that's going to be an ending concept, a stabilizing concept, at least in some aspect. The birds which are, again, something that is close for other species to have access to be able to hunt, to be able to feed off of, but they are able to fly, so they have a way of preserving themselves as well. And remark, this sentence actually explains the essence of the 7 pair with regard to the clean cattle. The admission of 7 pairs of the same kind of any bird was a measure to counteract the massive destruction of the eggs, which are eaten up as food by the various species. So again, his comment was, well, if we were going to make sacrifices from them later, we would only need 2 pair, 3 pair. So if we're going to need 7 pair, then part of that has to be that they are going to be consumed or lost in some other way. And with the birds, certainly, especially with his interpretation that we're not talking about those birds that are tahor, we're not talking about birds that have any intrinsic purity of them. The fact that there are 7 is going to emphasize the fact of natural losses and exposure. So we read the sentence. Gam me'ov hashamayim shiva zachar nekeva chayot zera al pnei kol haaretz. And pasuk dalet, ki with the tlisha ktana. Tlisha ktana, remember, goes on the end of the word. It's going to be a backwards-looking concept. It's going to always focus on what's come before, but more importantly, it's going to talk about the end of something. Key because even seed became mutationally decayed compared with the original strains, waiting was no longer realistic and a reversal impossible due to its widespread effects in relationship with the end of the previous sentence, as indicated by the shape and placement of the reading mark. So again, this is something that's going to look backwards. It's going to tell us that the important thing about birds was the fact that they've got seeds, and the seeds are there. But by the way, those seeds were starting to be corrupted to get some of this corruption into them as well. That's what we're looking backwards to from this Tlisha Ktana. And therefore, we couldn't wait any longer. For what? Liyamim, Kadma, and the next note is Azla. If you'll notice, Kadma looks exactly like a Pashta. The only way that we can identify it as a Kadma is by the fact that it is followed by Azla. Nonetheless, this is a pair. Kadma or Pashta are things that look forward to what is going to come afterwards, and it's going to highlight the word in and of itself. 4 days. Number 2, Noach was urged to accelerate structural and other preparatory tasks since the circumstantial conditions had alarmingly worsened. The waiting and postponement of the great event was only extended for days, as denoted by the directional shape of the reading mark. So Noach took a long time to build the ark, and yet we see that the concept of perhaps the eggs starting to become the seed, the eggs starting to becoming contaminated, is something that had to make the process be accelerated, and instead of waiting years and years and years to continue, it was something that at this point could only wait for days. Od, this is an azla, this is something that is going to complete the kadma. It's going to focus us on this word and emphasize this word. Od, additional, number 3. Several additional waiting periods were granted, including the time of building the ark, to effect a change in the dangerous trend, as stressed by the closing shape of the directional reading mark. So the Azla always closes the Kadma, closes that concept, and we had a waiting period. We had the time when the ark was being built, and yet that didn't seem to do it, so because that time had closed off, we only got a few additional days. And we get a note here, the Gemara in Sanhedrin says, Amarav, for that reason, for several reasons, a delay was granted. A, those are the days of mourning after Methuselah had died, and that's what Rashi, after Methuselah had died. And I'll read the Rashi in a second. No, let's read the Rashi now. Kideyamim od Shiva. Elu Zayin Yemei Evlo Shel Methuselah HaTzadik. These are the 7 days of Shiva for Methuselah, for Methuselah, the righteous one. Shechas HaKadosh Baruch Hu Al Kvodo. That God was merciful for the sake of his honor. Methuselah was the one who lived, the human who lived the longest number of years. The ikev et hapuranut, and he held back the destruction that was to come. And this is from Breshit Rabbah. This is from the Midrash, and also it's quoted in Sanhedrin, in the Gemara of Sanhedrin. Seva chashov, you should go out and think. Shnotav shel Methuselah, the years that Methuselah lived, the Timtza, Shehem Kelim Bishnat Taf Resh Shana L'Chaye Noach. That way, if you calculate out the the years that Methuselah lived, and you figure in when everybody was born, and you figure when Noah was born, that this is exactly when Noah is going to be 600 years old.
Which is when
So, Rashi uses a lot of events that are mentioned in order to time other events. And if you look at the end of Breshit or Noach or so on, it has this chart of when every person was born and when they died, and it gives you who is alive at the same time as somebody else, and that's calculated out quite often from things that Rashi derives. And one of the things that he mathematically derives is exactly when the flood was supposed to happen.